Okay, welcome back, everyone, to episode 7 of Building as We Fly. And we have our very first interview today, and I'm really excited about it. Today we have Katie Reynolds joining us, and I actually work for Katie. I do administrative work for Katie. So one of my side gigs, right? That I first actually took on before I even quit my full-time job. I had reached out to Katie and was like, hey, do you need anybody to help support your business? Because she was really growing and I had seen it on social media. We actually had not even really connected before I did that. So just a very random spur of the moment thing, but it's been great. So we've been working together for over a year and a half now, right?
Yeah, almost 2.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I think March is 2 years. Yeah.
It's crazy. Oh my gosh. Crazy. So I thought that it would be awesome to have Katie on to share her journey into becoming self-employed and leaving the corporate world also, because I remember her and I having a conversation about her making the leap, because when she started being a travel agent, she was doing it, on the side, and it wasn't her full-time job. And then it took, the guts to make that change. And we've talked about, our stories and how we got to where we are today. And we always want to give other people the opportunity to share their journeys as well, because it might resonate differently with other people. So Katie, welcome. We're excited to have you.
I'm excited. Yes. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I guess we'll just start with you telling us about yourself and what you do and all the things.
Perfect. So I am a full-time travel agent. I like to say full focus because full-time means that I'm getting paid a full-time salary. I do not get paid a salary. So I work fully on commission. I work for an agency named Travelmation. Our owner is actually from right by us up in Bedford. He lives in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So a little bit of a small world, because when I found the agency, I didn't know that. So it was everything came full circle, because I feel like everyone knows everyone. Everyone is connected somehow. So it was really cool. I became a travel agent in February of 21. A month before my wedding, because I'm crazy. But getting married during COVID, I feel like my wedding stress was not that bad. And I loved wedding planning. So to me, adding something else into the mix, I was like, good, I have a distraction now. It's great. So I became a travel agent in February of 21. I just wanted to pay for my Disney trips. I was like, let me see how much money I can make. If I can cover just 2 or 3 Disney trips a year, I'm fine. And my husband and my best friend were like, you just need to jump in and do this. And I'm like, okay. I was still working full time. I was working in property management at the time. And I just did travel in the evenings and on the weekends, when I wasn't at that job. So it was kind of one of those hobby sort of things, but then it took off. So Kirsta, I can't remember when we connected, but I think we connected shortly after I started, because I booked one of your Disney trips or something of the sort.
Yeah, it was our very first ones that we went. Yeah. And I think I had just been posting in some of our local group. This was I connected with you because I liked the fact, honestly, that you were a little bit younger, and we like that. Yes, than probably a lot of people in your industry. And
it's just a hobby, and I get that. It was a hobby for me at the start too, but as we're here now, it just took off. So in July, I realized that it's July of 21. I had hit what we call top producer in an agency, and that basically means you've sold $200,000 in that time period for that year. So if you think about it, that's a lot of vacations. So once I hit top producer, I was like, well, I can see this going somewhere. So I told AJ, I said, I'm going to ride this out, but this might be my new career path, because I was not happy at my job. I just did not like corporate world. I'm too sassy, headstrong. I don't want to be told what to do. So that was my problem. So I stayed in corporate America for another year almost ish. So that July, I was like, we'll tough this out for a minute. Fast forward to spring of 22. And I was telling my husband, I'm like, I am sick of property management. If I'm going to work full time, I want to change my route. So I went into media sales. So I started at a media company. And then I realized that the media sales were not as good of a commission as my travel sales were that I knew I could do. So in 2022, I had hit top 20 of our agency sales. And that's when I was like, well, I didn't know that until the fall, but I knew I was on that track. So I was like, I just need to take this leap and just try it. I was so worried about the income, but I kind of set myself up for success. And one of the good things about the travel world is I can project my income. So I can know based on clients traveling what my income is and what it should be if they don't cancel, of course, because I'm not paid if you cancel your trip. Just a fun note. And it's kind of stressful in that realm. But at the end of the day, we have full control of our income. So in the start of July of 2022, I gave my notice at the media company. And I told my husband, give me until the end of the year. Let's see how much money I make. And then we'll revisit corporate America, because you can always go back to a job. That is my biggest stance on entrepreneurship is you can always go back to a job. you can, now is the time to take that leap, do what you want to do, because jobs are always going to be there. Let's be real. Corporate America is never going to fall. And so I took that leap and I've never looked back. Made more than my salary. And it's just that the time freedom, I've said yes to more opportunities. So I've now been full focus as a travel agent for almost a year and a half now. And it's wild to think about because I'm my own boss. I get to do what I want, call my own shots. It's the best thing ever. And I have Kirsta who keeps my life together. So
you give me a lot of credit, but you do an amazing job yourself. And I feel like I'm just here for support, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. How long were you working in corporate America? Like how long was it until you just like started the side hustle and then with like full-time entrepreneurs, like 5 years? Like how long were you like in corporate America for?
Well, I mean, right after college, but with travel agency, I started in February of 21, quit my job July of 22. So not very long, a little over a year.
And you had only been at that media company for a couple months, I remember, because you were like, yeah, like this just doesn't feel like a good fit. I just don't know that this is where I want to be. You know?
Yeah, I was like, I loved my coworkers. I loved the company. I loved the structure. I had work from home flexibility. I had all of those things, but like, it wasn't my passion. And I'm like, if I don't do this now, when am I going to do it? You know? Like I can always go back. I know I've got the connections locally. Like I know I can do that, but now is the time to chase my dreams. So I was like, I'm succeeding now. Things are insanely blowing up. I was accepted to, one of the main things that really pushed me was I got accepted to one of the biggest conferences in the travel agency world called Future Leaders. And when I was accepted to Future Leaders, I was like, this is a sign. Like this is the universe telling me just do it. And then I needed PTO for that. And there was just so many things coming up that I wanted to go to that I didn't have PTO for. I'm like, why am I living my life based on corporate America terms when I could be thriving in this industry? So
got it. What you had said the reason you started your like the side hustle was to like pay for some Disney trips, right?
Yeah.
And so was it like I'm just trying to figure out, because like sometimes it's hard to know what to do in order to make this the side income or what side gig or side hustle to take on. So like, was it, you were aware of this, you work with somebody, or like, how did you find out about like being a travel agent, and how did you come to know like that was a way to make money and like travel to Disney for free, basically?
Yeah. Well, everyone in the Disney community very much promotes to work with a travel agent because they save you time, they have the knowledge, the inside knowledge, all of that sort of thing. So at the time I had two different travel agents. I worked with one that was Disney specific, and I worked with one that was more like all inclusive, does everything, which is the agency I joined. So it really came down to like, I was like, I didn't really ask them too much. I just did a lot of my own research. And then I had a friend at the time who was our travel agent in addition to the other two, but she had just started. So like, I just kind of used her as like my reference guide of like, what is she doing? Is she happy? That sort of thing. So it was kind of like, it's one of those things where it's like, you don't know what the income's going to be until you try it. So I was like, well, let me jump into this, see what the commission structure is like. And honestly, I didn't know how much time I would waste on a lot of things because it is time consuming. But then I just learned to love it. Like there's little things that you're just like, every day you're like, I can get paid to do this. Like, let's go. But it's not easy income. You have to self-source it all. So it's kind of a struggle in that regard.
Yeah.
Was it like really easy from the, like, did it require a lot of work up front with like little to no pay? Because I feel like, at least for me, that was the case where I was like Kirsta remembers me sitting up at night, like making, I don't know, like $15, $20 an hour, nothing like compared to even my main time job at the time. Like I was like, that feels like not a whole lot, but I know I sunk like of time to like learning and just like understanding and educating myself. So would you say that's the case for you as well?
No,
like you're like, hey,
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, you guys you've been to Disney. You know that the upfront with Disney is you've got to know your resorts. You've got to know your parks. You've got to know your dining. You have to know all of this little stuff. And then in addition, we're not paid until 3 months-ish after you travel. So say I book a trip in May for November, I'm not getting paid for that until January, February of the next year. So it's like that long-term income. You can do all of this work up front. And then if that person cancels their trip, you're not getting paid. So it's a lot of knowledge. And then in terms of like my niche of like the resorts, you have to know your resorts. Like if you don't know your resorts, you're shooting yourself in the foot and you are not going to do good in terms of surviving the big dog pond. So it's very much knowing your stuff and getting paid less upfront. Like I remember my first few paychecks were only like $300. And I'm like, how do people live on this? I mean, we know how much the cost of living is. So it's one of those situations where you have to like kind of gauge, what are you going to work towards? What's your goal? Like what income level do you want? And then at the end of the day too, what kind of clients do you want? Like, are you going to put in the work up front to find those clients and make that relationship?
Yeah. And you had shifted obviously because you were more Disney specific at the beginning. And now like, you're more into the like honeymoon wedding, more all-inclusive resorts internationally sort of thing. That's more your niche now. I mean, you still obviously do everything in regards to travel.
Yeah.
Like, what was your motivation to kind of change your focus and your marketing of like, this is what I specialize in and that sort of thing?
I'm nosy and I want to know it all. So it's like one of those where I was like, I saw these other agents booking this and I'm like, I want to do that. Why am I not doing that? So I'd actually never booked a sandals resort when I went to my first one. And that was in January of 22. And I stepped foot on that resort and I booked 15 rooms. So I was like, I can do this. And so it's one of those situations where it's like, what do you want to learn and what do you want your niche to be? Because you have full control of that. So like, I mean, for Luke, he does a lot of like web design of like building websites and the shop design. Whereas like I have another friend who does web design, but on the graphic side of things. So like you can choose your path and you don't have, no one has to tell you what you want to do essentially. So I just loved the all-inclusive space and the cruising space and the wedding space. And I was like, I want to learn more. I'd never been on a cruise either before I became a travel agent. I'd never been to an all-inclusive resort. My first all-inclusive resort was our honeymoon in October of 21. So I was already a travel agent sending clients to resorts and I'd never been to one. I'd not booked that many back then. Course. It was more Disney domestic. And then I went on my first cruise in October of 22. So like everything was a forward world to me until I did it. And then I did it and I jumped right in. Like I always tell my suppliers, I'm like, I won't really sell your resort until I see it. So, and it's proven. I mean, Kirsta, we just looked at all of those Unico bookings. I went to my first Unico resort in November of 22. And this year I'm already on track to be one of their top sellers for the year. So just because of that first visit, I'm now selling it. Crazy. So
and she's selling me on it.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to get you guys.
I know. Yeah, I was telling Luke about it last night.
Come on, Luke. AJ will be there. You guys can hang out.
Yeah, no, we're probably gonna make it happen. That's why I assume at least.
This is the danger of working for a travel agent, right? Is that I see all these amazing places that like Katie goes and that her clients go, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I really want to go. So like we have a trip booked right now, in September to go back to the last year, and I was like, okay, like I love that resort, but like it would be really cool to go somewhere different, and this place looks amazing. So we'll figure it out. But
absolutely,
she's always selling me on it.
What do you?
Sorry.
And I mean that's just the nature of the game, but it's a good and bad thing. It's good for us because like I don't like get out very much. I don't travel very much. Like I sit in my office and I code and I help my team, right? Like I leave my team from my house. I don't get out much. We have 4 kids, so it's good to have that like. And that's like, hey, what about this and that? Like, I think it's actually really good for us. But like, I'm just like thinking back, I'm like, was there any time where you're like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, or like, wow, this is really hard, like much harder than I thought? Like, were there any big barriers? Because I feel like when you create a side hustle, it's like very exciting in the beginning. You're like, yes, it's working, and I sold this. Like $300 is probably like awesome. But there are times where you're like, and maybe whether this was after going full time or before, was there anything that you felt like, wow, this is like a big barrier? I did not expect this. I can't do this, and you question yourself. Did that happen at any point in the journey?
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah. There have been times where, I mean, honestly, where my paycheck has not been what I want it to be, and that's just the danger of this game. It's that it's very unpredictable in terms of pay because I am paid by my suppliers based on when the client travels, but sometimes the payout doesn't come in time. Like me and Kirsta had a situation where one of my weddings took an extra 3 months to pay out. And a wedding is a lot of income. And I was like, I am sitting on this this income that is not coming in. And I'm a little freaked out at the moment because I really would like that money. There were things coming up that I'd planned to use that money for. So that's terrifying. But then also just the nature of like, do I know enough? Am I the right fit travel agent for these clients? So it's like just that mind game of you have to gain that confidence of, am I ready for this? And can I do this? And I think that comes with like knowing your niche and knowing what you're good at too. And something I preach to our travel agents all the time is I will not book something I don't know. So for example, like I do not know Alaska. I do not know Alaska cruises. If I get an Alaska cruise inquiry, if I don't know the person that well, I will send them to a travel agent that knows it because I don't know it. I'm going to be honest. Like I don't want to send you on your $10,000 vacation and mess something up or not give you the right piece of advice. So it's being able to like, as an entrepreneur, own up to those small little things because it's going to impact your business in the long run. Like you want to get that confidence in your backbone of like, I know I don't know how to do this. Let me pass this to someone that does. So, and it's like, you can't, like there's so many, I see like a local photographer the other day, she does like senior photos and homecoming photos, but then she posts that she does like brand marketing. And I'm like, but you've never shared that. So do you? Like, I think you should do like a trial run on this before you're sharing that. So little things like that, like be honest if you don't know something. We're not perfect. and we're all human.
Totally. And that's something that I always have admired about you, Katie, is like when you're like, okay, like I legit don't know. Cause I know now you're more familiar with Europe because you've been there, but initially you were kind of like, I've never been to Europe, but I'm going to tap into all of these additional travel agents as resources to help me with the clients, you know, booking so that we can figure it out.
Yes.
You're very honest about that with your clients, which I think is great too. And people rely on that honesty to build that trust, right? So
exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, I would rather do that and lose a paycheck than anything. Like I would rather make a client's dreams come true and lose a paycheck than mess something up, because at the end of the day, it falls back on me, and I don't want that responsibility. And that I would feel so bad. Like it would just eat me alive. So it's better just to be honest.
I think I like to get the fine line between like, hey, I'm out of my depth, but like, here's this edge I want to push a little bit. Like you're Europe, let's say, an example. Like I don't know that, but I kind of want to know that. And like to your point, it's good to pilot it and like have a client or two that know very well. Hey, I've never done this, but like I'll figure it out for you. So like I agree that something like a fine line. And I think it was funny you were saying at the beginning. It's like you were selling things that you didn't even know yet, and I'm like, that kind of is sometimes how it works, which is like, hey, I don't know this just yet. I'm going to push myself a little bit. But I think if you put in the work and you like have a good understanding, you're using your network and stuff, like I don't see that, especially in the beginning. Like if you have a side hustle, like you're not going to know much at all. You tell them, and it's I can do that, i.e. I'll figure it out, and like they don't necessarily know that. But I think as long as you give them like a good end result. But yeah, I agree. If it's like totally out of depth, they got to schedule it in like 2 days from now. It's like, okay, I can't do that. I can't deliver on that promise, right? So I think there's a fine line between those, though.
Oh, yes, 100%. And also, I mean, having a good mentor in the industry is great too. I've got a couple different mentors that I know I can lean on. There's one like group of travel agents that like we all do the same sort of thing together. So it's really great to like be able to lean on them if I need something. And so I'd say too, like if you're going into a specific niche, find a mentor and, you know, be honest, like, hey, I really want to learn this. And sometimes you do have to pay them. You do have to pay mentors. Like I've done calls with many of our agents and they've paid me for my time because I've helped them grow and learn. And that's just the nature of the game. Like it's just a respect thing too. But finding a mentor that you can trust that's been in your shoes and has now learned those things can be a game changer because they're going to teach you their mistakes, how they're doing, and just best practices. So I think that's also like a game changer that's really helped me grow.
Yeah, totally agree.
That's a great point. I know Luke has a mentorship that he's part of, like a group. And then like when I was first stepping out, you know, from fundraising and doing the fundraising consulting, I took like some of my fundraising mentors like to lunch and was like, you know, my treat, I want to pick your brain, you know, from a respect perspective, right? Like, I value their time. I'm going to treat them to lunch, pick their brain, you know, all that sort of thing. Yeah. A little less formal setup of a mentor, but like, just to your point of like, you know, valuing someone else's input and wisdom to help you grow is big.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that is like probably one of the most important things, at least in our business right now, is like, I'm actually asking for help and people are helping guide the ship because when people aren't that close to the deep, they can give you like better advice. So like I'm in like, I'd say 2 groups. One is like more sales oriented. We just talk about sales and like talking with people and making sure we understand and making sure we give them what they need. And basically just becoming a better person about like selling our own services. And the other one is more holistic, I would say, but still like it's invaluable, like the stuff they give us. And like they encourage, like, you know, basically don't be as scared and just like step into it and go for it is like the kind of time away from them and not giving them anything back. So like it is definitely agreed. Like that is probably one of the most like game changers. And I have a couple other friends that like we just chat business. Yeah. They've also been super helpful. So that's a really good point. Maybe even like a side hustle. I think you had said when you were starting out, like you had someone that like kind of knew or kind of had like dabbled a little bit, and it sounded like that kind of helped as well. So that's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And building that trust is great. And like, that's why I tell everyone, I'm like, you have to build that trust with someone before you kind of, you know, dive into things because it could really change your life. Like I have a few agents that I work with and I message all the time, and they, you know, built that trust with me before they became an agent. They were my clients and they built that trust with me before they became an agent because they were like, well, I want to do this, but I don't want to offend you. But like, here's what I want to do. And like, they built that with me. It really makes me feel better because like, I mean, I know I'm good at my job, but I also don't want someone, you know, stealing my clients necessarily because that's not cool. Nobody needs that. So I think building that relationship too says a lot about your character.
Totally. yeah, I mean, leaning on other people is huge in general in life. And like, I think especially in your industry, like just knowing that there's people you can trust and call on, I think is really important, because I mean, we can't do anything alone, let alone, you know, our self-employed jobs that we're already doing alone in a lot, right?
Yeah,
so
it's a lot.
It is, for sure. Oh, I had a question that I lost that we were talking about something earlier.
But if you remember, I just want to add on to that point. Like, it makes me like, I'm starting to see things a bit differently too. It's like nobody really is my client or like my mentor or anything. It's like all these different relationships, right? Like all clients, I'm like, I want to have a relationship with them. I want to make sure they're getting value and that we're helping them out and they're doing what they want. And that's this is more like, it's less about like the money exchanging
100%.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
About building a relationship, making sure they're getting like their business to the next level on all fronts, basically, or like they're 100%. Getting a relationship. So I'm starting to see it a bit different now. It's like now that we're growing more and more, it's like it's just a different feel. I think if we just take this like relationship oriented approach and like making sure people are getting value, then it's like everything else will kind of just like fall into place. So that's even with like employees or people that work inside the company, contractors, things of that nature. Like just maintain those relationships. I feel like there's like a very generic way. I know people are like, oh my gosh, this is so cliche.
No, but it's the total truth. Yes. My agency owner, he would say that. And I'm like, you're just speaking out your tail. And I'm like, and now I see it. Now I see it for myself, because I'm like, I would rather value my relationships than my income at this moment. Like, because I love the people that I work with and I love the people that I'm in a circle with, you know? So it's more about just like, and also just building each other up. Like, there's room for all of us to succeed in this world. There are how many millions of Americans, and Europe's a whole different ballpark. The Caribbean's a whole different ballpark. Like, there are so many people in this world. There's room for all of us. And so I think that's like shifting that mindset is a game changer to collab. There's a word that we use in our industry, and it's community over competition. So we use that word a lot, because it's like, if you can give your knowledge and your help to build someone else up, good karma will come back to you.
Absolutely. I love that. Because I do feel like, especially, I don't know, in a sales type role, which both of you really are. I mean, technically I am in fundraising too a little bit, but I'm more behind the scenes. But anyway, there is a lot of like perception, I think, around things being really cutthroat and like stealing each other's clients or whatever, that sort of thing. But in general, I feel like business is changing to be more respectful.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Everyone, you know, succeed. We all just gotta, you know, work together and lift each other up and that sort of thing.
100%. So. Yeah. Like yesterday, I mean, I went to lunch with one of my resort reps and one of the other agents there that's not in my agency. She and I mean, we're not huge competition. I don't like the word competition, but like we do live locally. Like she's local in our area. She's very, very well known. And I had been to one of the resorts, one of the resort's hotels that she hadn't been to. And I'm like, here's my photos. If you can sell this resort, sell this resort. Like, I don't care. Use my photos, because at the end of the day, as long as someone is working with a travel agent and acknowledging our business model, I don't care. I don't care. And as long as they're knowledgeable and they're there to help you, and, you know, it's a whole different ballgame. Like once you shift that mindset, and honestly, therapy helps a lot too, because but it helps you a lot once you realize that we're all in this together. Like it's not one dog against another dog. I
got some skeletons in the closet that anybody kind of get rid of. So yeah, I totally agree with that for sure. Because like that's the thing. Like this is the thing is like I feel like Kirsten and I, we push a lot of like side hustle and entrepreneurship, and people might think that like they don't like understand why we're probably doing that. But like to me, it's more about personal growth. It's not even about like, oh, we hate corporate America. It's like it has everything to do with like personal growth. It's like if you feel like you're not getting out of life what you want to get out, I think that's what you're getting at before. It's like change something or do something different, and you know, throw yourself out there and see what happens. Chase your dreams, chase your passions, like kind of just go get after it. Hey, we live once on the earth, you know. Right. That's I know that much at least. Where we go after is a whole other set of questions and theories. Yeah. But that's
it's freedom.
That too.
And I think growing up, right, there was a lot of thoughts ingrained in both of us. I think that like consistency is the most important thing. Like you want to have a consistent paycheck, you know, all the sorts of things. You know, I love my father-in-law, but I know when Luke decided to leave his full-time job, he
wasn't exactly thrilled. And at the time, I mean, he made some comments, but like part of me is like
he supported Luke, obviously, but like he came from a generation of like corporate America is kind of like standard. Like this is where you're gonna have the most success in life. It's like if you achieve getting a corporate job and working your way up the ladder, right? like things have actually changed. And
it's a safe play. Like, I think to your point, they're like, even in our business, like cash flow is all over the place. Let's be real about it. Like we have similar projects, like similar sort of like cash flow things where it's like, hey, someone pays up like half up front, and then, you know, we don't get paid for another like month or two, basically. It's like, well, that's a huge gap. And we still got to pay people, pay ourselves. So corporate America is definitely like the safe play for sure. And like you said, it'll always be there. And I think that's like comforting to know. It's like, hey, if I need to go back and get a job, but we could do that. You know, it's not an issue. So yeah, I think, ultimately the reason we push that out there is just like, it's a personal growth thing, to your point. Like the therapy comment made me think of that, because I'm like, the amount I've grown in the past like 6 months is like way more than I think I've ever grown in my my entire, basically outside of having our child. So anyway.
It's real. I was just telling my therapist, I'm like, she's like, well, you know, I remember back, you know, when you first started travel, you were so anxious and just going through some depression. And she's like, and now you are killing it. You've got a backbone. You know what you're doing. Like, you can confidently speak. And she's like, that right there is growth. And that's what's changed you. And I think being able to speak on that and, you know, show how far you've come, that's huge. It's not even about the money. It's about how much you've grown as a person.
Totally.
Yes.
It actually all kind of reminds me to the question that I was going to ask that I forgot about was, hey, it all comes full circle, maybe, was actually like, how have you changed with marketing yourself also? Because I think like something that's actually like very different with Luke and me is like, right now I'm not in a position to really like scale the business that I'm doing or projects I'm taking on, because I am, you know, transporting 4 children around. And, you know, I literally told Luke I haven't worked a full day at my computer since December 19th, right? Because my kids are off school and like all the things, and then sick and all that stuff. But anyway, so I know I see like you marketing yourself on social media. Luke's business, you know, has a new social media strategy of how they're going to be marketing, things like that. So just talking a little bit about like from when you first started to where you are now, like your perspectives on marketing you as your self being out there in your business.
I'd say I used to focus more on like the deals and like the destination. And now I focus more on like myself and the knowledge behind it, because there's a lot that goes into your trip that people don't think about. Like, you can book something online direct all day, every day, but are you going to know the little tips and tricks of how to make that trip better? Because I know. I've been to how many resorts. And so I think shifting from the monetary mindset to the value mindset, because everyone wants to know what is the value of what they're getting. So, and I'm actually speaking about this at our agency event in 2 weeks. You know, if you see a business advertising the word free, what does that look like to you? To me, that's tacky. To me, I see free and I'm like, this is a catch. They're going to get me for something. But when you add the value behind it and you say, hey, for, you know, $200, you get all of this, it's a great package. Like, you think about the value behind that. So I try to switch my marketing now to like myself. I mean, I'm not that exciting, but I love talking about my life. And I feel like I try to be relatable in a sense. Like, poor Zoe, I mean, I'm obsessed with my cat and she's sick right now. So like, I talk about my cat all the time. I talk about my husband all the time. Like, I feel like people want to buy from people that they relate to. So building 100%. That relationship makes a huge world of a difference.
Yeah, that's so true. I had said something to Luke about like a long time ago, before like we started doing any sort of social media for Deck Stuff at all. It was like, we need to get like your face out there a little bit more. Like, and then the person that was doing social media started doing like testimonials of everybody who works on the team and, you know, that sort of thing. I think it does really help to like, you know, put a piece to the work so that people know that they can develop that trust and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And like
small business.
Yes. The value you're providing is huge.
Yeah, because I mean, people see a small business and they're like, I want to support that person's family. Let's do it. Let's go.
That's the greatest part. You literally are, right? I don't know if people like realize that, like, when you support a small business, you literally supporting that person's life, like livelihood. It's just way different. It's like a direct line. You can see like, oh, I work with Luke. He can feed his 4 kids.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
But I think that what I've realized too lately is like, and this is what I think about when I have conversations, is like, am I actually understanding what this person is saying, or am I just like totally missing it? And sometimes it takes me a few iterations to really get what they're saying. Because I'm like, every call I have, I'm like, if it doesn't work out, it's my fault, because it's like I didn't get true to like what they needed, what they wanted, and what they're trying to get, what they're trying to do this year, basically, as a company or as a person. So I think it's a very good point about like not the money, but like I'm always like, okay, can I understand? Can I listen better? Am I really playing it back to them? Hey, did I really understand this is what you said? But I kind of heard this, and this as well. So I think it's good that you talk about that, because I think, people, again, it's like, oh yeah, side hustle will produce you money. But I think to your point, it's like, it shouldn't really be about that. If it is, it's probably not going to work very well. If you're like, oh, I just want the $200 and I don't want to do a whole lot for it. I've run across people in my circle that are like, act that way. Like they struggle, because it's like, it's more about the money than it is about like what I'm giving back. And it's like, you got it all back. It's like what you give, you get. So
exactly. And like, that's something I pride myself on, because I'm like, I know these resorts and I know I can get you the quality that you want. Like, and it's one of those situations where like, you have to figure out what is your long end goal. I want this year, my goal is I would like to have 400 honeymooners. I want all of them to love their resort. I want them to be so happy. And ultimately, I love when I'm told that a baby is made on their honeymoon as well. Like for those couples that go there, I love when they're like, Katie, we had so much fun. Also, we're pregnant. And I'm like, I mean, me and my husband were not ready for babies on our honeymoon, but the couples that are, that story is like my favorite. So, but yeah, it just goes to show like, what is your like passion? What are your warm and fuzzies? Because that's what's going to help produce you and keep you in it long term. Because when the days get hard, they get hard. Like Kirsta's been there. I was on the phone with her when I was dealing with that incident 2 weeks ago. Like I was crying for 3 days straight. And my passion for this industry is what kept me going. I could have thrown in the towel, closed my book, said, I'm done. But my passion keeps me going. And I think that's really what makes people stand out.
Totally. And it goes back to your growth point and like the maturity and, all of that comes with it too. Yeah. I think when Luke was talking a little bit about like valuing like the relationships and like providing, what people want versus what you want as the business person. I joked with him a long time ago. I was like, I really need to give you my consultative selling training that I used to do for my staff, because that's in fundraising and nonprofit. It was all about meeting the person where they were at and providing the solution that's going to best suit their needs. Right. And sometimes in sales, that's not the first thing that's top of people's mind, but
everybody gets freaked out when you get on like a sales call. I think everybody acts differently in a way. And it's like it's our job to kind of like break all those barriers down, because they don't know who the hell we are. Anytime I don't help somebody, I'm like, I missed something. I didn't do something right. This is on me. Again, it's not I failed to understand them properly and give them what they wanted. Otherwise they would work with us, Yeah, so
absolutely. Yeah. And I think it comes down to like, not all clients are your client as well too. Like, I try to pride myself on that. Like there's a lot of people that, they're looking for the deal. They want their price dropped every 2 weeks. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. And plus your price is probably not going to drop. So have fun finding that. But realizing that like not every client is your client. Like it's just the way of life. Like we're all different personalities. And I always tell when I interview like brides for destination weddings, I'm like, go with the travel agent that you vibe with best. You have to talk to that person for the next year and a half. Like don't go with the one that's going to get you the best price. Go with the one that you can be friends with. Because at the end of the day, you want someone on your side that you can go to when things go wrong. So
True.
So to wrap it up a little, because I think we're almost at time. Well, we might be over time. I don't know. But I do want to give you an opportunity to give your like sales pitch for yourself, because even though like, we were just talking about how relationships are so important and, building that trust, I still want to give you an opportunity to really like share, if someone were to want to reach out to you today and say like, Katie, I'm interested in booking a vacation, later this year, like what would you offer them and say to them?
Yeah. So as we've talked about, I love all inclusive resorts. I've been to, I think last year I did like 33 or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
And I was away from home more than I was at home in 2023, just for perspective of how many resorts and things I did and it like involved I am in the industry. But all inclusive resorts are my niche. I love doing honeymoons, destination weddings, vow renewals, even just a couples or a family getaway. That's my niche sort of thing. I am very experienced in cruises. Next weekend, which I don't know when this will launch, but the weekend of January 19th, I will be on the brand new sailing for the Royal Caribbean Icon of the Seas. So cruising is my niche too. I've sailed Virgin Voyages a bunch. I was top sales for my agency in 2022 for Virgin Voyages. So cruising, all inclusives. I have now dipped my toe into the Europe, Italy market. Italy's my baby. I love Italy now. I was just there for about 2 weeks. But when it does come to planning Europe, I feel more confident, more prepared in that. As we've talked about, we all grow. Domestic trips. I do have an assistant that does handle my domestic trips. But in terms of that, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I will tell you right now that Alaska and Africa, those more unique things, I will pass you off to another travel agent that is experienced, because I feel that it's not my realm right now. But there's agents out there that know it, that have been, and I would much rather make your dreams come true and make your trip seamless than take a paycheck from it. So that sort of thing.
And people can go to your website to fill out your client inquiry form first, right? That's your process.
Yeah. I do like the client inquiry form. So if you just go to my website, klrtravels.com. You can also shoot me an email, klr@travelmation, Mickey.net. Super easy there. But my website's got my email, my phone number. You can shoot me a text. Either way is good. And I do have consult calls now. And I am a travel agent that charges fees. So with that said, I will do a consultation call. I do charge a consultation fee because, not a consultation fee, but a planning fee necessarily after the call. Because I get so many inquiries that if I helped all of them, I would never sleep. And I also want to distinguish serious clients from non-serious clients because let's be real, I don't have time to price out your vacation for 2 hours and then you don't book. So this pays me for my time in the event that you do not book or you cancel for any reason. So fees are so important to me. I'm speaking about them at my agency event in 2 weeks because it's kind of like you want to go to work and get paid, and I want to go to work and get paid. So kind of setting that playing field right there. Everyone deserves a paycheck for their time. But yeah, other than that, just go to my website. I'm super easy to get hold of. I'm on my phone all the time, unless I'm on a call like this. So
yeah,
easy.
I think that's a great point though about the fee, like initial planning fee too, because I think about like, we met with an interior designer to come out and give us like some quotes on doing some storage solutions in our living area and that sort of thing. And she's local, like she's self-employed. She's not like with a big corporation, but like we know we're supporting her as a small entrepreneur as well. And then like her time is money, right? For her to come out to our drive here, spend, 2 hours walking through and talking about what's feasible for us and that sort of thing. She deserves to be paid for that time, right? And you are exactly the same in regards to your travel, inquiries that come to you, right? It's like it takes a lot of time and to research exactly what people might want for their trip, and it's totally worth it. And you're those guides that you send out to your clients as they're traveling, like those are invaluable. They're huge. Yes. So
thank you. I know. And I work hard. I mean, I truly pride myself. And I think back to also like, do you want a travel agent that's traveled, that has been to these resorts, that has been to these destinations? Because you're paying for quality. You're paying for quality and knowledge and time. And I think all of that just speaks volumes. Like I was just talking with another friend where, she's raising her prices at her nail salon because she's like, I have gained the knowledge now. I'm at that point to where I can charge more. Same concept. And as you deserve a raise in corporate America, same concept.
Totally.
Great.
Totally.
All right. I think that's it. I think that's all we got. Like, appreciate your time.
That was long.
Another 2 hours, but
right.
I know.
I love it.
All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in to episode 7, right? This is 7.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. This is 7. It's been a mess since we recorded, but yes.
I know. I was losing track. We'll put Katie's information in the show notes so that you guys can go to her website, send her an inquiry if you are curious on booking a trip with her. And we hope that you'll tune into the next episode. And thanks, Katie, for joining us for our first interview.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, awesome.
Bye,
everyone.